Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and today I'm going to be working on a different style clock. I'm not an expert at these type of clocks. I bought this clock several years ago when I was stationed over in England. I used to go to a auction house on Thursdays, and I would put in silent bids. And then on Friday was the auction itself, and they would call me up Saturday and let me know whether I won an item or if I didn't. And I bought this clock for £15. It was my first clock at this type. And so I took it to a clock friend of mine. And he told me he was at that auction house that day. And if he would have saw that clock, I wouldn't have got the clock. So anyway, kick back, relax, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, grab a cigarette. As you can see, I'm still chewing my Nicorette gum. Been 9 days now without a cigarette. I'm hoping I can continue it. It's just a hard habit to kick. So let's get started. Now, this is a torsion / anniversary clock, whatever you want to call it. And it was made by Gustav Becker in 1908. And I'm going to show you in the 400-day clock repair guide that they either came with a disc pendulum or a 4-ball pendulum. This one came with a 4-ball pendulum. And it's been in my house and it's extremely dirty. If nothing else, I'm going to shine it up, clean it up. The dome is real glass. It's not plastic as a lot of the domes are. And here you can see the Gustav Becker name and the medallion. And I'm going to take the movement off because I want to clean up the base. And so these little posts come out. Hopefully they come out. It's been sitting in my house, not working, and like I said, I paid a friend over in England to repair this clock, and I'm just noticing the suspension block hangs on that screw. Now I'm going to have to look in the book to see if that's normal, because I don't know if it's normal or not. And if you watch my other videos, I tell you that if there's any kink whatsoever in this spring, that you have to replace it. There's not any kinks in this spring, so I don't think I'll be replacing it. I will be comparing it to the book, but I'm going to set that somewhere where it won't get damaged. But I want to clean up the base here because it is extremely filthy. I'm not for sure what this wire is doing on it. I would have to ask my group expert, Torsion Dell. And I'm going to leave a link to Torsion Dell's YouTube channel in the description of this video and at the end of this video. He is the group expert on repairing these clocks. That's what he does for a living. Please, if you do nothing else, just subscribe to his channel. I've said this before. I have subscribed to several people's channels. I have over 100 subscriptions, and I've never paid 1 penny to do so. It takes more effort to unsubscribe to somebody's channel than it does to subscribe to their channels. Anyway, I'm going to take this. I see a screw down here in the in this bottom section here. I'm not for sure where that screw came from. But I'm going to take this to the sink and take some Dawn dish detergent to it, and then I'll come back. At one time, I had all my torsion clocks in my kitchen up on that top cabinets, and cooking causes the oil and cooking whatever to get on those clocks, and that's why it's got all that crud that it does on it. So I moved them to here, most of them. I still got some in other places, but I moved most of them up there, and as you could tell, not one clock is working. So I have to go through every one of those clocks and service them. But I've got 2 sitting there, 2 there, 1 over there. This one over here, even though it's still considered an anniversary clock, it's not designed the same. And then I got this one here, and that one does run. And this one right here is a battery-operated anniversary clock made by Elgin. It plays Westminster chimes on the hour. I just need to put a battery in it. Here's one I repaired for a friend of mine. I'm setting the time. It was running too slow. Now it's running pretty decent. But unless you put a beat amplifier and know the beats per hour or whatever, you have to let them run for a couple days and then adjust them. And then this one right here is a Japan clock that I did a video on, but I couldn't figure out how to slow the pendulum down. But I didn't get that much into it. This is a book from the auction I was telling you about. Thomas W.M. Gaze's son in Dis, Norfolk. And there's their information. It was always every Thursday viewing, and then the auction was on Fridays. But here are, let me see if I can find it. It's not anything to do with the clock, but it's something that I bid and won. I just looked at it. What happened to it? A box of assorted, no, never mind. I thought it said phonographs, because I bought some 78 records from this auction house also, and I paid like £10 for 2 boxes of 78 records. Anyway, I've got a few of these books, and this clock is in one of these books. Here's a piece of paper that I spent quite a bit of money on 182 pounds that day. I bought a 19th century rosewood case mantel clock with glazed and mirrored door, an Antonio clock movement and pendulum in later case, and a Victorian black slate mantel clock with ice cream face painted with musical trophies and garland of roses. And I paid £100 for that clock. And let me show it to you real quick. Here's that clock. It's really dirty right now because I got it sitting in my floor. I just got through weighing it, and it weighs like 34 pounds. But here, I showed this to you before. You see the date, 12/11/99, right around Christmas time. My ex-wife was mad at me. I would go to this place, and, I put bids on. They were silent bids. Sometimes I won, sometimes I didn't. This time, I won everything. I spent 408 pounds that day. I bought they call it a grandmother clock. They're wrong. It's a granddaughter clock. I never bought a grandmother clock over in England. An Edwardian bookcase, a late Victorian gilded brass mantel clock, and an oak Gothic style mantel clock. And I will show you some of those things right now. Here's the Edwardian bookcase that I bought. Here's the clock that, out of all my clocks, I think that this one belongs. Well, at the time, out of all my clocks I purchased over in England, I think this one belongs in a museum. It was made in 1900, French clock. And then this is the other clock that I bought that day. And my ex-wife was quite mad with me that day. These were my Christmas presents. At the time, the exchange rate, it was $1.75 thereabouts to £1. So this 408 pounds cost me around $700. So you can understand why she was quite upset with me on spending $700 worth of clocks and stuff that day. And this is the book. Well, I take that back. This says September 99, but I bought this stuff December 99. But these are the items that I bought. And there's one more in this book somewhere. But anyway, I kept all the books of the stuff that I bought. I just didn't mark everything. But for those folks in the UK, if you go to this, I would call them first to see if they're still open. It was always a good place to go to get good deals. Now, using the 400-day clock repair guide, here's the plate, and here's the actual movement. It's plate number 1207A. Now, the NAWCC has pointed out errors in this book, and I have looked at the errors in the NAWCC, and this clock is not any of those errors. Now, right here it says, if I can get the camera to point down right, it says disc pendulum or 4-ball pendulum. made in 1908 by Gustav Becker. And I said this before, if you're going to work on these clocks, this is a good book to get to help you repair these clocks. There's a lot of information in this book. It talks about the history. It basically says an American designed the 400-day clocks. I believe his name was Anton, I can't remember. But Germans perfected the clocks. Anton Harder is the guy that developed the 400-day clocks, I believe. And but the Germans perfected it, and then I believe Charles Twilliger is an American, and he created this book. And that's the most sought after book there is. Now it says see Appendix 11, and this is 11. This Gustav Becker clock may be equipped with an overhead suspension bracket with special attachment or for adjusting the pendulum beat. The illustration shows the overhead bracket A and the adjustable attachment B. The special top suspension block C, which B interlocks, and the suspension guard with bottom suspension lock E. Basically, what most of that boils down to is this bits on top of that screw, like it shows in this picture. It just hangs on that screw, as I showed you earlier. And this shows you the serial numbers and when they were made. So I would have to look at mine again to show you. By the way, it said see Appendix 70. And this shows you the serial numbers and when it was made. My serial number is 242. Which shows it being made around 1909. So I was wrong on the date. It was made in 1909. It also says, see Appendix 74. Gustav Becker was born 2 May 1819, Oles, Silesia, in eastern Germany. His first shop was in Freiburg. He died 14 September 1885. Following his death, his two sons, Albert and Paul, continued the business. In 1890, a branch was opened in Braunheim, Bohemia. About 1898, the firm Freiburg, and I can't pronounce that, AG was formed. In 1925, the business was purchased by Gerber Johannes Schramberg Black Forest. So, Gustav Becker never touched my clock. His sons, Albert and Paul, did. In the last appendix, it says 87. For Becker standard models under glass domes, there may be one of these decorative brass pieces screwed into the front plate under the dial. Mine doesn't have any of these front plates. And for a plate like this, it says C unit, use units 19, 20A, or 21. That's where all this comes into play. but my clock doesn't say anything about how to set up the suspension spring. So when in a case like that, you have to follow Torsion Dell's instructional video. See, there's no units in how to set this up. So basically what you would do is you would put the bottom block on. You would set this up, and then you would put your pendulum on, and then you would measure from the top of the pendulum to the top of the fork, and that's going to be basically your length of your spring, and then you would come down so far. I'm sorry, you put the bottom block on and you put the top block on, and then you would cut the excess spring off, and then you would estimate where the fork would go, and then you would give it a spin, and if there's too much chatter, you might have to lower it or raise it. Derek Torsion Dell has got a good YouTube video explaining all that. So you're basically estimating all this, but it does tell you the thickness that you would use of the Oliver suspension spring, which is use 0.004 or 0.102 millimeters. That's the kind of spring that you're going to have to use in order. And if you don't have, but you got something close, let's say you got something thicker, you could always take a piece of sandpaper and sand it down slightly. If you got something too thin, it's not going to work. At least, I don't think it's going to work. Okay, I washed this up, but as you can see, it's still got a bunch of grime and stuff on it. So, I could either take my fingernails and scrape all this stuff off. Again, this is from having it in the kitchen where I had it. Or I'm going to use some semi-chrome polish and see if I can polish it up. Now with this stuff, it's a wax on, wax off type thing. You just have two different rags. One rag to put it on, one rag to take it off. I'm not too worried about where the bolts go. Some people use Neverdoll. I don't have any Neverdoll, so that's why I'm using. And I will tell you, it takes a lot of work. It's getting there. So anyway, I'm going to continue that. The top side was the easiest part. The base is the part that's going to suck. So I'm going to continue that off camera. This is what I done. This is what I haven't done. Can you tell the difference? I can. Nasty, pretty. Nasty, pretty. So it's getting there. And when you get it all shined up, you want to wear plastic gloves. You want to wear gloves of some sort because you don't want your fingerprints on your nice, shiny base. I didn't shine the inside up. I guess I could, but I'm not going to. I think I will shine these parts up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do next. And by the way, I'm using a lint-free cloth. I think I bought them at the dollar store, Walmart, but that's what I use to polish them up. I think it turned out fairly good. Now, if I was doing this for a living, I'd probably want to put another coat on it, but I'm not doing this for a living, so it looks a lot better than what it did. One down, one to go. Can you tell which one I polished up? Of course, it's that one. I still have to polish this one up. We're getting there. And as you can see, I always love these shirts. This is my 1880 Alexander Puig clock. That is the biggest cuckoo clock that I have. And it was a shirt designed with my inputs by Seth Linkpelter. It says, "Not for sale, it's my children's inheritance." What better way to show the love for your passion, to advertise your passion. I get people commenting on my shirts all the time. So get with Seth Linkpelter. Let him design you a shirt from one of his, from one of your clocks that you love. You could buy this shirt and many other shirts on Redbubble, and I will leave a link in the description of this video and leave a link to Seth's YouTube channel at the end of this video. If you do nothing else, please hit the subscribe button to his YouTube channel. He is very professional. I wish my videos were as professional as Seth's videos. He doesn't put as many videos out as I do. And that's because he takes the time to edit, to create professional videos. He gives you the history of the clocks, as much history as he knows and can find, but his videos are extremely professional. So make sure you hit the subscribe button to his YouTube channel. Even if you don't order a shirt or have Seth design you a shirt, at least hit the subscribe button. And may God bless each and every one of you. And for the small parts, why not get creative and save my hands? Because I got carpal tunnel on both my hands. So this is the cat inside my drill. polish on, the wax on. Wax off. Can you tell the difference? It saved me time and pain, so why not? I always like getting creative, and you know, we got these tools, why not use them? I need a switch on my drill so I don't have to hold the button. I guess I could use a clamp if it'll fit. Voila! That works. And it's polished up. Too bad this won't fit in there. Maybe it will. It does. So I can I'll slow down my drill some. And I want to finish polishing up this. You know, I always say the best tool that you have is what God gave you. You just have to think outside the box and come up with something that helps you out. You don't have to buy all these fancy tools. Just use what God gave you. Now, I could be wrong, but I think these springs are designed to hold this in place. Like I said, I'm probably wrong on that. But I have the nuts started on the bottom. I'll have to wipe all this stuff up again after I put this on. need to push my bolt up. And I'm not taking the movement apart. This is only, like I said, I wanted to clean up the base of the clock. Hopefully I don't have to take the movement apart. You know, I said this before, I got way too many other clocks to work on versus working on all these other clocks that I have. So I don't want to take the movement apart if I don't have to. Should the movement be serviced? Well, yeah. Last time it was serviced was in 1999 when I bought the clock and handed it to my British friend who was a clock repairman to service it. But like I said, I got way too many other projects in the fire that I don't want to service this movement if I don't have to. I'm gonna wind the clock up. I'm gonna put the suspension spring on and see if I can get it in beat. Now you will notice, or you should notice, two things. A, there's not a cup that the pendulum fits in, so you don't have to worry about the cup hitting against the pendulum. But B, there's no beat on the bottom of the base to adjust this clock. So that can be a negative thing. I don't want to touch the clock because I got it all cleaned up. But you see this suspension wire? You got something to point with. The suspension wire, one of the screws, it's missing the suspension spring protective. One of the screws goes in one of these 4 spots. But you see the suspension spring, how it's closer to this one than it is to this one? In order for this thing to be level, I would have to put shims underneath it so the spring is in the middle of those posts, as you'd call it, versus to the right of them. Now, up here on top is almost in the middle, but the further down you go down this spring, the further it gets to these, closer to these posts. So, because it doesn't have any leveling beat on it, I'm going to have to put shims underneath it to level it out in order to set the beat. And same way where I put it, I'm going to have to make sure that that suspension spring is in the middle of those posts. doubling up a piece of cardboard. Now it's in the middle of those posts. And so I should be able to put it in beat if it's not already. And you don't want to sit here and twist this pendulum several turns. You only want one rotation at the max. You will also notice that there's a pin up here on top. And of course the Bork block itself. I think that is to keep the suspension block in place where it needs to be. Remember, because this just sits on this, in this divot of the screw area. It's not quite in beat, so I'm going to have to adjust some things. You will also notice that this clock does not have a pendulum stop like your newer clocks to raise the pendulum up as you transport it. So in order to transport this clock, you'd want to take the pendulum off before you transport it, or you're gonna kink up that wire. Now, I purchased this book while I was stationed in England in 1999. Britain Old Clocks and Watches and Their Makers, 7th edition. That's not the book that I want to show you. This is the book I want to show you. Collectible Clocks, 1840 to 1940, Reference and Price Guide by Alan and Rita Shenton. And I purchased this in 1999. And I wish they had something like this in the United States. Because you have to understand that this was still when clocks were somewhat valuable. This one right here, Torsion Clock by Gustav Becker, again with the suspension guard, pallet adjusting apertures, and trademark of Crown Anchor initials GP. This is very close to my clock, 175 pounds. This is an updated price guide listing that for £5, I believe, you could purchase this and they would send it to you. I left England in 2000. And so if I go to figure 71A, it shows that it's worth 250 pounds. So in 2000, again, the exchange rate was about $1.75, $1.78 to the British pound. This clock was valued at around $450. Not bad for somebody who only paid 15 pounds. Then I paid my clock repairman about 70 pounds to have it serviced So I got about $170 in this clock. Back then it was worth $450. These days, of course, if it had the disc pendulum, some people want to see the disc pendulum in the older clocks, but as the Charles Twilliger guide showed you, this clock could either have the disc pendulum or the 4-ball pendulum like mine has. And as far as the guard, I'm sure I have it around here somewhere where I have no idea. But like I said, I wish they had something like that. This here in the United States. I don't know if this is still being updated or not over in the UK. Maybe one of my UK friends like Torsion can tell me, Matthew Reed, or one of my other UK friends can tell me whether this book is still being updated. But within this book, I've got more of the Thomas Gaze books, receipts from clock spares that I used to purchase over in England. The book came with this. I didn't start collecting clocks until 1999. So, anyway, I'm going to see if I can get this clock in beat and put it back where I got it from. It's what I like about these plastic gloves. But you could buy them at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. You remember I told you I don't want to take the clock apart if I don't have to? Well, I'm going to trip the burge here, the pallets. As you can see, the escapement wheel is not advancing, so I can't put it in beat. And so there's couple things that could cause that. A, it not being wound up. It is wound up. I wound it up. It does advance when I move the hands. So the now it's advancing. That's because I moved the hands. The tension behind the hands might have prevented it from advancing. But as you can see with me moving the escapement wheel, the hands are moving. It wasn't doing that before. So now I might be able to put the I think the yeah, that's another issue. The lever that the fork catches is loose. It shouldn't be that loose. I pushed it on some, but it was touching the back plate. I'm trying to point this camera so y'all can see things, and I don't know which way to point it because I got it away from me. But this lever right here that the port catches was against the plate. So now I might be able to put everything back on and see if I can get it in beat. I'm going to have to take this movement apart after all, and I'm going to show you why. Watch what happens when I move this thing back and forth. Again, I'm moving the birch back and forth. The hands are moving. And then when it gets past the 12 o'clock, it stops moving for some reason. I think arbor is bent. And because I'm doing this on video, it's probably going to continue moving. Which it is. I sat there and did this before I turned on this video camera, and when it got past 12 o'clock, it quit moving. There it goes. It's stopping. I'm still moving the birch back and forth, but as you could see, the hand is no longer moving. And so I'm going to have to take this apart. I'm going to have to ask my group expert, Derek, what I need to do to this. Plus, this piece, which is the stem for the birch assembly, it moves on me. I can see, I can push it whichever way I want to push it. It shouldn't do that. It's too loose. So there will definitely be a part 2 to this video, but doesn't that base look so much prettier? I hope y'all enjoyed this video. May God bless. I do want to show you one last thing before I stop this portion of the video. Loosening this dial here is what you adjust to get your clock in beat. Because as I move that dial, it's moving this, and even though I don't have it in place, it's moving the fork. You might be able to see the fork move as I move the dial. It barely moves, but it does move. And that is how you would get your clock in beat on this particular clock. When I say that is how you get your clock in beat, on other videos, I put my horologer beat setting tool on the top block here and adjusted this, but not with this clock. You loosen this up and you move this dial back and forth, and then you tighten that up. And depending on where you hear the tick and the talk is where you move this dial. I hope y'all like this video. You know, I've said in the past, I'm not an expert on torsion clocks. For the most part, I know what I'm doing, but I am not an expert on torsion/anniversary clocks. In both of my groups, my expert is Derek, who goes by Torsion Dell. He lives in the UK. He has a YouTube channel. You know, a lot of people do not want to give you any information on torsion/anniversary clocks. Derek is kind enough to do so. He shows you how to put a clock in beat. He shows you how to select the torsion suspension spring, how to set one up. He does it really easily. The man does this for a living, but yet provides us free advice so you don't have to go through what I went through when I first started collecting clocks, and that was pay somebody to repair a clock or tear them up. I've tore many clocks up trying to gain the knowledge that I have. And so please hit the subscribe button to Derek's channel. Again, I will put it in the description of this video and at the end of this video, right up here. So please hit his subscribe button. Get on his channel, subscribe to his channel. It doesn't cost you one penny. I hope y'all enjoyed this. There will definitely be a part 2 to this. When, I have no idea. It depends on how I feel and when Derek gets back to me, etc., etc., etc. May God bless each and every one of you.